In set 4, you're looking at time series trends. Now, there's two ways in which we can talk about the data. We're always looking at time axis. Are we looking at seasonality? Now, when we're talking seasonality for data, we quite often look at months in a year or seasons in a year. A little clue in the example on page 25 is you're given a series of years. Cyclic data can be quite often harder to spot, but it could be particular trends that occur with spikes and similar patterns. And the example with the iPhone is a case in point. When I'm talking to you now, we're still with the iPhone 6. I reckon that the iPhone 7 and when the iPhone 8 is produced, you'll have a similar spike. And the sales decrease over time. Random, no set pattern. Now, key things here, seasonal, the time, regular times. Cyclic, similar patterns but more disjointed. Random, no real trend. What we can also say though is there a longer term trend. For example, a brand new restaurant opening up, maybe Friday, Saturday and Sunday, is going to show initial spike and maybe a downwards trend in customers. Or alternatively, a new shop doing particularly well may show an overall upwards trend. The Australian dollar shows sometimes random patterns in change there. We can see an overall upwards or a downwards trend. Now, some of these are a little bit arbitrary. The key ones we're going to be looking at are seasonal patterns, where we have particular months or quarters or days of the week. When we deal more with random pattern, we've perhaps got to take a moving average, an average of 3 points, an average of 5 points, and look at a slow trend removal. Seasonal patterns, we get a lot more direction towards. In question 1, you've got to match some of those pointers towards trends. Now, when we're looking at seasonal patterns with upwards long-term trend, we expect to see the x-axis evenly distributed and the pattern repeating. So in case C, you can see that little V shape appears twice. So we'd say that would probably be part C. In a similar way, with a downturn trend where the intervals are pretty constant, H seems to fit with that particular one. A seasonal pattern with no particular trend changes. So in other words, good sales in summer, not so good in winter. Maybe an electricity bill for a family of 4 people. Doesn't show a trend in usage, might show a trend in price, but not a particular trend outside of the seasons. So seasonal there, we'd be looking at A in that instance. Cyclic pattern, so these are patterns with repeats. The intervals aren't so distinct. Perhaps F might fit there. We're getting spikes and patterns. Cyclic pattern with a downturn trend. Perhaps B. We're getting that curve up, dip up, down, but the break between those two is a little bit disjointed. A random pattern with an upwards long-term trend there. Perhaps D. You can see no real patterning, but an upwards circular trend there. Random pattern with a downwards trend, we're probably looking at B. Gets easier when we haven't really allocated. And the only one we've got left, H, random pattern. Really the start and finish are about the same. We'd be looking there at G.